and I want to see spades in the ground as quickly as possible.
Ed Davey, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Mr. Speaker, can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about the dreadful stabbing of 2 children in Brent and about the horrifying shootings in British Columbia? Our thoughts and prayers are with the children's parents and the people of Canada, especially those grieving the loss of loved ones. Mr. Speaker, to appoint one paedophile supporter cannot be excused as misfortune. To appoint 2 shows a catastrophic lack of judgment. The Right Honourable Gentleman once told this House that when a Prime Minister refuses to take responsibility, and I quote, "It only serves to convince people that things cannot get better, that governments cannot improve people's lives, and that progress is not possible because politics does not work." Does he still agree with himself? And does he share my fear that that is exactly what is happening now?
Minister.
People in this country, millions of people, have been let down for years and years and years. And one of the reasons was austerity, which his party supported. He should take accountability and take responsibility for what he has inflicted on this country.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, I think I touched a raw nerve. But I think the whole House will agree that the Manson scandal has shown yet again why we need a duty of candour for anyone and everyone in public office. Mr. Speaker, there should be no more delays in putting the Hillsborough law on the statute books. After the long fight by the bereaved families and so many others, like the Mayor of Greater Manchester. The Prime Minister once said it would be one of the first things he did in number 10. Will he finally do it now, even if it's the last thing he does?
Prime Minister.
The panel report in the Hillsborough case was when I started working on the Hillsborough case. That was in 2012, when his party were in power. And they could have passed this law a long time ago and saved a lot of grief. I'm proud that this Labour government is bringing in a Hillsborough law, something I've committed to for a very, very long time.
Richard Quidley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Prime Minister will have heard me say, the Isle of Wight is a fantastic place to live, work and learn, despite the Leader of the Opposition trying to give us to China. He will also be aware of some of the challenges we have in cross-zonal transport, reliability, frequency and price. The emissions trading scheme, which ironically only applies to hybrid vessels, may increase fares further. Despite exemptions granted for Scotland and Northern Ireland, the lack of grid capacity to fully decarbonise, I am deeply concerned about the impact on our island community. Will the Prime Minister urgently ask DESNZ ministers to review this issue?
Minister.
Well, thank him for his question. I know how important affordable ferries are for his constituents' everyday lives. The ETS scheme will make journeys cleaner, and we're working with ferry companies on the grid connections in ports that enable greener vessels. I'll make sure that he gets a meeting with the relevant minister.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr. Speaker, if I've just listened to the Prime Minister correctly, he's essentially rolled the same pitch in relation to Matthew Doyle as he did with Peter Mandelson, that they weren't clear with him. He appears to be the most gullible former Director of Public Prosecutions in history. But he has a slight problem, Mr. Speaker, because some of us do read the newspapers. And towards the end of last year, indeed on the 30th of December, having written to the House of Lords Appointments Commission, I received a response from the Chair, who advised me that as part of their vetting, they provide confidential advice to the Prime Minister on the propriety of a potential nominee. Will he release that advice?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've made my position clear. He knows how the system works. But, Mr. Speaker, he says he reads the newspapers. He will have read that in 9 days their former party chief executive goes on trial for embezzling money. And if he'll have read that the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we see one of the worst failures in Scottish public life. Vulnerable children and adults put at risk. Evidence of serious warnings to the SNP government were ignored. He should have been looking at those, not looking at the newspapers. The First Minister should act, because families deserve accountability.
Can I just remind the Prime Minister we don't discuss live cases because it's sub judice. Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I met Leighton, a T-level construction student at Bradford College. He was working on the remediation of wreck at Airedale Hospital. In the last few years, Bradford has made tremendous progress in reducing the rate of young people not in employment, education or training. So will the Prime Minister reconfirm his commitment to vocational and skills training and set out how this Labour government is ensuring that young people like Leighton have career opportunities in construction and other critical industries?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend. Leighton's success is a testament to what young people can achieve with the right support. We're creating technical excellent colleges and delivering training places for 60,000 skilled construction workers. And Labour's creating opportunities for every young person whilst building the homes, the schools and the hospitals that our country needs. And that's what I'm fighting for.
Rebecca Smith.
Last year, Plymouth was named the National Centre for Marine Autonomy and given a defence growth deal. However, the SMEs in the unmanned surface vessel sector, many based at Turnchapel Wharf in my constituency, are having their work held back because of out-of-date regulations from the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. Last week, I was told that draft regulations exist, but that they require primary legislation. Now, without these new regulations, many of these vital SMEs developing autonomous vessels that have dual commercial and defence use are at risk. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister show some backbone and consider finding a slot for primary legislation as a matter of urgency, or at least consider adding it to the King's speech later this spring, assuming that he is still in charge of the legislative programme by then?
Mr. Speaker, we are taking action, but in the particular case she raises in her constituency, if she sends me or my team the details, I'll see if there's anything we can do to support what is obviously an important issue.
Steve Race.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will be aware of Lorraine Cox, a resident of Exeter, who in 2020 was murdered by a man whose asylum claim had been denied but who is not removed from this country. Will the Prime Minister set out what more this government will do to make sure deportations of people who have no right to be here and of those who have committed criminal offences will be sped up? And would he meet with Lorraine's father to discuss the family's campaign for justice for Lorraine?
Prime Minister.
Well, my honourable friend raises an awful case, and my thoughts and those, I'm sure, of the whole House are with the loved ones of Lorraine. Tackling violence against women and girls is a critical mission, and I'll make sure the Home Office Minister meets the family. I want to be absolutely clear, Mr. Speaker, illegal immigrants who commit such appalling acts should not be in this country. That's why we've already removed nearly 60,000 people with no right to be here, and deportations of foreign criminals is up by a third. We're also reforming human rights law to allow us to swiftly remove those with no right to be here.